Yeah.
Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to go from illiteracy to being a bestseller? I have a feeling that this is going to be a journey of riches coming right up after this. Wake Up with Giants TV is coming up. Woo! Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants. And I wrote a book, Journey of Riches. This one's facing your fears. This one's a different one than I wrote but you're going to learn about that today a little bit. A Journey of Riches. So I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. There it is, right there. And he started this whole mess. So
Look what you got us all into. Yeah,
it's your fault, Nick.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so excited to be here today. We've got an amazing guest. Before that, he also wrote another book called A Tortoise's Hair. You can see it in his background.
Yes.
Beautiful illustrations. He's just about got it all done. He's waiting for a proof. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it here.
Oh, okay.
Add it to the
Ready,
stage.
set.
How about
Ready,
that?
steady, spaghetti.
Oh, wow.
Ready, steady, spaghetti. So the editing is done, the beta reading is done, the layout and design are done. I'm getting a proof, and so just waiting for that to show up. And this is a beautiful book, The Tortoise's Hair. It's another metaphor, but this one's on self-love, self-acceptance, and overcoming insecurities. Powerful book. This will be another great seller. So for you that are that have been waiting,
that are out there.
Language. So you'll see good English all the way
Good
through.
English, right? You must be from Utah, are you?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. So
Nailed it.
The Tortoise's Hair is another beautiful book. You'll see some recognition throughout. Morris Market, the Morris family donated to this book. You can see Steve Hardison's street signs in this book. Loving You, Be Blessed. Those are the street signs on his house. And then we also have the Fossen family that donated, and I'll show you that here at the end. Fossen Falls, right? So we tried to attribute throughout the book. We're grateful for the donations that came through, but this will be another powerful metaphor that ties into the 12 journeys that we teach and our continued message to create giants throughout the world. Did you say a use too? There's my beautiful girlfriend there. We also have upcoming the SG program, Sum Gigante, on July 29th. We still have seats left. So if you're interested in exploring that, reach out, DM us, and make sure that you're following everything that we're doing, because we're creating impact one person at a time, creating a world of giants. So, yeah. Beautiful.
Winning. It's awesome. Love what you're doing. You guys are doing amazing things, super inspiring. Appreciate it. It's unreal.
Thank you.
I was just listening to you live on Facebook before we jumped on here, and you just knocked it out of the park. It was just like gold nuggets and gold nuggets. I don't even think you said an R, and it was hilarious.
We call it Nick. We call it Nick knowledge, John. He's got the knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, I love serving.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So should we introduce
the live afterwards?
Should we introduce this amazing guy that's on with us?
I think we shall.
I think if we got to get into this. I feel like it's a horse race. You like
use should
fighting at the bit.
Proper English? Should I say it in good English?
Good English.
we got John.
Accent,
Yeah, I don't have the accent. You got the amazing accent. But John Spender's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Despite not being able to read and write until the age of 10, he's become a 35-time international best-selling co-author and an award-winning international speaker and movie maker. John has traveled extensively, starting numerous businesses and creating the acclaimed book series, A Journey of Riches. His experiences as an international NLP trainer and coach have allowed him to help thousands of people from various backgrounds, guiding them through challenges and helping them find their true potential. From working with Native American Indians in San Diego to swimming with humpback whales in Tonga, John's quest for a fulfilling life has taken him around the world, discovering a universal hunger for freedom and expression. He's also the co-writer and producer of the upcoming documentary Adversity, featuring renowned figures like Jack Canfield and Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, set to release this year. Has that already released?
No, almost.
Almost.
The trailer's almost done. We're just ironing out a few creases, and the film will be ready in October.
Oh, amazing. So watch for that. We're thrilled to have John with us today to share his insights and experiences. So please join me in welcoming John Spender. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Yeah, great to be here.
It's good to have you.
Yeah.
Our goal, is really to inspire the person across the screen from us. So the three of us will have a conversation, but it's really about that person that's sitting here listening and inspiring them into their greatness. And we do that through your journey. And you talk about the journey of riches. And I'm sure we'll get into that for sure. But I want to go back to your identity. We like to start with the non-conscious journey and our journeys, just because many of us create this identity, this character, and we think that's who we are. And a lot of time it's handed down. I come from a family of 11, and believe me, I know about hand-me-downs. So we didn't get new clothes. We got what was handed down. We did go shopping once a year, but that was it. Other than that, we just shared clothing. But sometimes we inherit things and characteristics and personalities that really aren't ours. They're just hand-me-downs. Maybe we could start there. Like, who did you think you were growing up? What was it like?
I think in the most part, being born in Australia, very blessed. And even though I didn't learn how to read and write at the basic level till I was, 9, 10 years of age, still had so many amazing experiences. I mean, if you think back to your own life when maybe you've gone through a series of adverse events, the sun rises and sunsets every day, and there are still magic moments. I lost my father last year, and it was an intense moment. And there was still, in my childhood, there was some emotional significant events that happened that were terrible and all the rest of it. And so I say, as it identified greatly as someone that was like meek, a little bit shy, and went underneath the radar. And then in the family dynamic. But then at school, I was like the class clown. So I was a class clown. I was the master disruptor. And there was anything to get out of doing schoolwork and things like that. And I was kind of loud and vocal in school, but kind of timid and shy at home or in new environments when I didn't know people or things like that. And so that was really the identity that I've had for a very long time, and still to this day. But it doesn't own me as much, and so the insecurities don't stop me from taking actions. I still have them, but there's not so much of an anchor or a weight, and I'm not imprisoned by them. I'm aware of them. I'm able to move through rather than them holding me back from, working on releasing a film or launching books or, whatever creative endeavors that I'm doing. So I feel and it's been and I had a period of, I guess, I don't know if you would call it an addiction, but a habitual lifestyle of recreational drugs. So going out on the weekends and, having ecstasy or cocaine or whatever it may be, and that being, like having a beer with your friends or whatever. And so that was a part of my life for a while. It wasn't until 2010 that I was able to actually break that. And it was a moment I had an epiphany. So that's a little bit of a context of what I moved through.
Well, you hit on, and maybe we'll anchor here, maybe we won't, but I think we'll touch on it. You talked about insecurities, and the video I did this morning was on insecurities and fears that we have and who we think we are and how we judge ourselves based on those. And I'd love to dive into that awareness around that. Is that many of us have these insecurities. We have anxieties or fears or depressions around who we think we are. And you mentioned that you were able to navigate through those without actually attaching to those insecurities. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think at different times I've been able to move through it, and just
Okay.
like it really feels like different times, especially when one of the times that really stands out is I joined this coaching program to become a coach, and I was training in NLP, and it was a 40 grand buy-in. It was a year program, so it was a decent investment, and one of the mentor on one of our calls suggested that we go and volunteer our time. And I found myself, I had a landscaping background, had a landscaping company for 11 years, divided in two parts. And I volunteered at Mission Australia, and I thought I was just going there to feed the homeless, but their whole paradigm is about teaching people how to feed themselves. And so basically life skills and things that maybe they didn't, acquire growing up for whatever reason. A lot of these people are in crisis situations. They're medicated to the eyeballs and all different types of prescription drugs. And they were in a challenging place. And so they were hanging on to their model of the world really like this. I'd never done a presentation before. I had done drama and school plays, but not done a presentation to train and teach and inspire. So it was, I thought driving in for the first presentation, I thought I was going to die. I was having heart palpitations, and I couldn't breathe. I was short of breath, and I was using the NLP technique. Everything changed. Once I was doing the box breathing, which I actually was introduced by that breathing by Sonia Choquette's book, Traveling at the Speed of Love. Great book. And that box breathing is awesome for gaining control of your emotions and your awareness and focusing in what you're actually here to do, to be of service, was my case, and to move through that crippling fear. And then everything changed when I pulled up to the centre. And this area was notorious, the main centre of Sydney, for not having parking. I got to park right out the front, and I was able to just, I got there early. I was able to chill, do the box breathing, in a relaxed state. And then I did some NLP techniques, swish patterns, and I went in there, and it was just pure service. And I'd never been so. It just landed beautifully. And I only had one person leave the presentation, which is really good for for people that are in crisis situations, because as soon as you try and change their model of the world, or even suggest a different way of doing things, can really mess up their sense of certainty and security. And I ended up teaching there for a month. And that was, example of just dying to an old part of me and birthing into a new part. And, I'm sure you fellas have had experiences where, you've had to actually say goodbye to an old person to actually then be a different person, to live into the life that you aspire, to be an author, to be a coach. You have to die to the old person that is not capable of that. And so that means upskilling. It means getting coaching. It means reading books. It means being dedicated to your craft and upskilling. And so, and then, my mentor used to always say to me, start with confidence and the confidence will come. And it's moving through the fear. It's moving through the challenge that, you start to become a bigger version of yourself and start unlocking your potential, because I remember you were saying on your live just earlier, Nick, that, we are born worthy. We don't have to feel worthy to breathe the air that we take in. And it's the same with our potential. We have unlimited potential, but it's almost like we put clay on our potential. Yeah. We've got to peel that clay off, and to let the potential come out. And that means moving through insecurities. That means moving through fear and limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, and also imposter syndrome. you know, feeling that, yeah, you are meant to be in this role, you know. And that's another thing that I had to really move through, is like, especially with the writing and supporting other people and coaching other people on their writing journey, was, you know, there's a part of me that still thinks on some level at different times that I'm this 9-year-old boy that can't read and write at a basic level. And so, you know, nurturing that part of myself, you know, and it's almost like having like a child, or your niece or your nephew, if you don't have children like myself, and it just, you know, walking yourself through it. And sometimes it's, you know, it's encouraging and supporting that part of yourself, and other times it's just nurturing them and like, you know what, you know, as you were saying on your live, you know, be okay with not being okay. And I feel that if you can come to that place, then, you know, it's just a matter of moving forward.
I don't know if you've seen the movie National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase and his cousin Eddie. I feel like, you know, there are times where you're moving forward in a new direction and cousin Eddie shows up. Your old patterns show up and they just move in and they're out in the street and they're smoking, you know, like all this funny stuff. But it's no longer who you are, but it still shows up. And
yeah,
so,
yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's true.
As you're speaking here, what I'm hearing is that, you know, the process of becoming the new you is a process, and it's a repetition of new patterns over time that allow you to do that. And whenever we get really insecure and we feel fears around speaking to people or getting in public, you know, my daughter just sang in front of an audience and she has panic attacks around it. She just gets so anxious, and she was able to breathe through and get up on stage and performed beautifully.
Yeah.
And she got out of her head and it being about her and really started serving the audience with her voice. And when I spoke in the UK just recently, I had on my notes because I emceed the event, and I would get nervous up there. I got scared, and anytime I brought it into me, I'd feel scared. But I had a note on the top from Chris Doris that says, "When you're in service, you can't be nervous." And so I would pull myself back to that to get back in service and stop making it about me and see how I could serve others. And that pulled me out of those insecurities. And that's what I really want to talk about, though, is how we often feel insecure when we're judging and looking at ourselves in relation to ourselves or in relation to other people and who we think we are. And those judgments of it's all coming back here. Anytime you're feeling anxiety or fear or insecurity, it's because it's coming from you concerning yourself with you. Does that sound right? Or do you have a view on that?
I think it's that I think when you're definitely in the spotlight and you're presenting from stage, then that's definitely the case. You know, I did a presentation in India back in 2016, and I definitely felt that, and I made that switch. I'll make it about the audience and, you know, and why they're here rather than, you know, myself.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when there's just, I find like public speaking specifically is like an extreme sport, that it really takes you out on the edge. And a part of you feels like, for me, it feels like it happens like, it's not like the thoughts are so rapid. Like we get so many thoughts during the day, right? But these thoughts are just so rapid. And I'm actually concerned if I'm not feeling a little bit nervous before I go up on stage or before I'm doing a presentation. If I'm not feeling a little bit nervous, that's when in my experience, my presentations don't go as well. There's just something about that nervous energy, and then I know it's like this primal, innate fear that we're going to be judged, that we're going to be ostracized from the tribe, and, you know, and maybe we're going to bomb and forget what we're going to say. And it's not like you just get this thought and that's exactly what it is. It's like it happens so rapidly and you just get this intention and emotion. But you can actually transmute that into enthusiasm, into presence, you know, into love, into service. And, you know, when I haven't showed up fully as I know I can show up, it's when the nervousness hasn't been there. So I find that having the nervousness, for me, a very powerful thing to then transmute.
Okay, that's cool. Rich Litvin was one of my mentors, and he talked about Bruce. I think it's Bruce Springsteen, and that when he would get up on stage, he'd just be his nerves were going. He's sweating. He's actually puking before he gets on stage, and people said, "Isn't that time to like quit?" And he says, "No, that's go time. That means it's go time." And then he'd go out and perform and just do an incredible job. And it's many people take those fears and insecurities and emotions and they turn them into the reason and justification for not performing. But like you're saying, it can be this tool that enhances your performance. It tells you it's go time. It's time to step up on stage and really serve.
And it's a strong, powerful energy, right? Like it's a really strong, powerful energy. Like if you're around someone that's really anxious, you can feel it. It's almost like you start to get a little bit anxious yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because it has a strong intensity. So you can then transmute that intensity into excitement, into enthusiasm, into service, into love.
I found that like growth doesn't come from being comfortable. And so when you're uncomfortable, you're in that growth or that moving forward, or that energy of anxiousness, nervousness, excitement, passion, whatever it is. Usually that's when the growth moments are occurring, and you're stretching, you're becoming more. I mean, you have the choice, you have the option right there, whether you choose into it. Nick, you at the event, you would look down at your paper and read that, and then it flipped the switch, and then you could do exactly what John was saying, is just transmute that energy from the nervousness and the fear to stepping into your power and coming back to who you really are, which is a giant, an amazing and awesome and a great speaker, and go back, just bring it right back in and serve powerfully. And I think that's where our growth moments happen, is as we start to become uncomfortable, and then step into it, and then we really grow and become a new, better version of ourselves. Like John was talking about, is, our old self is kind of dying away, and our new self is coming forward. We talk about spiral dynamics. You start to spiral up, and see a better, higher version, or a different version of yourself, and then your capacity also increases as well.
I see that. John, the idea here too is that as we really lean into these fears and really play them out, we find out we can handle them. You go into your story in your intro and your bio, and you talk about the illiteracy, that you didn't even know how to read or write up until that point. Now, for some people, that becomes the reason for not doing. And for other people, it becomes the reason for doing. So the interpretation of it is so subjective and relative that we determine what we're going to do with that event or that information, right? What can you say to that?
Well, yeah, 100%. But there is a gift in adversity. There's a gift in the challenges that we go through, and we have a choice. It can be the reason that holds us back, or it can be the reason that inspires us forward. And we have that choice. And I find that people that are able to calibrate, the heavy aspects of, the emotional beings that we are, the doubt, the insecurities, the fear. If you can transmute that, there's actually a gift in going through those emotions. I think the worst thing you can do, or at least it's been my experience, is that, well, I don't want to feel any fear. I don't want to feel, and then try and suppress those emotions. I think the analogy that my mentor used to use is like pushing down a beach ball, underwater, and just trying to hold it down. And the more you're trying to hold it down, the more it wants to pop up. And I find like if you can let them move, the emotions move through you, feel them, and, just show up anyway, show up towards your goal. What are the things that you need to do to show up to be the person that you want to become? You want to write a book, you know what I mean? Well, what are some of the habits that you need to do? You need to write consistently. You might want to have an outline, work with a coach, someone that's done it before, read some books that are in that genre that you want to write and create, and you can sort of get some ideas and inspiration, and start to move into the direction that you want to create. Yes, you're going to have uncertainty. Yes, you're going to have challenges, but they don't have to be in the way. They can be on the way that builds you to the person that needs to do that.
Yeah, that in the way versus on the way is such a nugget. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Because here's, when we look at our 12 journeys, the first 6 journeys are in the roots. We're going into the core. What's going on in there that's getting in your way of you doing what you're talking about? And then the second set of 6 journeys, there's 5 that are for growth. And then the 6th is impact, legacy. What's the impact you want to make? And when you move into doing something you've never done before, like you just mentioned, a process. It's not about worthiness. It's not about moral code or anything like that. It's a process of learning a new skill and developing that skill in such a way that you become good at it. There's no worthiness in any of that. And so when you're learning to write a book, it's going out and being terrible at writing books. If you're learning to be wealthy, it's going out and being terrible at being wealthy. It's not a moral thing of being worthy of wealth. It's like you just haven't developed the skills yet to be able to make that a constant in your life, right? An automation. And so for you to go from illiteracy to a bestseller, there were a certain number of skills or set of skills that you had to learn. And then you had to get really good at fine tuning those learnings so that you could do that again and again in your life. And now 35 times you've done that. Is there any correction to be made in there?
It's now 30, I think it's now 37 times. So we released another Journey of Riches book and then another book called Be Your Own Miracle with one other author. And they were both bestsellers and did quite well.
I want to play with something on this, okay? Because that's amazing. Okay, so as an author, we go out there and we take our manuscript and then we submit and wait for approval and acceptance by some big publishing house. And then we get rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. And we think, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. They don't want me. Nobody wants me, all this stuff. And then along comes this guy, John Spender, who says, you know what? I don't care what they say. I'm going to be an international bestseller, whether they approve of it or not. And I'm going to go out there and put this into the world, regardless of what these big houses say. Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I couldn't get anyone to publish this, my first manuscript. Actually, in fact, I had the idea, like a concrete idea and goal that I wanted to write a book in 2010. And so I joined up to a Hay House cruise. It was 5 days through the Caribbean. You had people like Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Cheryl Richardson, Reed Tracy, like prominent people in the personal development space under the Hay House banner, right? And there was only Hay House people, the whole cruise ship, thousands of people. You had many different workshops. I did a writing workshop, with the people I just mentioned. And I told my friend before I left, I'm going to write this book in 2 weeks. It's no sweat. And anytime I went to write down and put things to the keyboard, I just froze. All of a sudden, other things became a priority, and procrastination became my new best friend. And it was so challenging to get this. Yeah. And it was like the iceberg effect. It's not until you have big audacious goal that you start to see more of the iceberg, more of your unlimiting beliefs. It's kind of like Jack Canfield uses the analogy, when you're at a theme park and you've got those little heads that pop up and you've got to pop them down.
Yeah.
Like you go for a goal, these things just pop up you don't see before, right?
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, right. And so that's what it was like. And I was struggling that much, and a friend was saying, well, you're doing all these presentations. Why don't you just speak the book? This was back in 2011. So I got a dictaphone, and I actually finished the manuscript, and I was going to get it transcribed. I just spoke it all out like a presentation. And I came home from it was a Toastmaster speaking contest, and I had the dictaphone in my pickup. I went up the stairs, and I was like, oh, I've left it in the pickup. And I just thought, you know what? I'll get it in the morning. It'll be right. And then, I'll send it off to the transcriber. I went down the morning and someone had there was glass on the road and smashed the rear corner panel window and took everything out of my pickup.
Holy crap.
Yeah, except they sat in the driver's seat, ate McDonald's. They had wrappers on the floor, and they just left my metallic cross that I got from Brazil in the driver's seat and took everything else. So, and then I just thought, am I meant to write? And it was just such a, it was devastating. It was devastating. Yeah, it was very difficult to. I was angry. I was mad.
Yeah.
And I was peeved. And I decided my coaching practice was flourishing, and I decided that I'd write more of a how-to book on different things I was doing with my clients.
Yeah.
And then I was a terrible typer. Like, I was like this. A friend was
That's me. That's me.
It's going to take you 10 years to write this book. I was literally like that. Actually, mostly it was my right hand. It was my index finger going like that. It's going to take you 10 years to write that book.
I can relate to that.
Oh my God. And then I forgot actually I was learning about computers, and my sister bought me, like, it was, had the disc on the side and was like a touch typing sort of software. And I'm a lot better than I used to be at typing paper. And
for me, I'm just a fast pecker.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. Whatever works.
Fastest pecker in the West, right? We'll call it that. It's what's amazing is how life tends to shift our direction through events that at the moment seem devastating, but they were necessary for us to become who we needed to become, and really to express who we already are. And the idea that we look outside of us for approval from other people, and then when we get it, we're still not satisfied with the approval, so we go seek more approval elsewhere, and we're never satiated in the idea of being enough. And so we constantly have this insecurity following us, and people might call it the imposter syndrome. And if you're not feeling imposter syndrome, then you're probably not out there trying anything.
Right.
Because anytime you do something new, insecurities come up. If you're out trying to publish a book, you're going to feel the insecurities come up. You're going to have the judgments and the justifications and the doubts. And one of the definitions of doubt, or not even a definition, but an understanding of doubt that I love, is that doubt isn't the opposite of uncertainty. It's actually a facet of uncertainty. Certainty is the opposite of uncertainty. And so many of us are certain in who we are, yet we feel the insecurities because who we're certain of is really negative, right? So we don't allow ourselves to feel doubt, but doubt is just a facet or a fractal of uncertainty. Anytime you do something new, you're going to have doubt, but it doesn't kill the dream. And so what kills us is trying to find approval in others and never feeling satiated in the approval that we do get. And do you have some thoughts around that? What comes up as you hear that?
I find that I still feel like doubt, when I'm writing, and I contribute to every Journey of Riches book, and I'm collaborating with on other book projects as well. And it's there, but it doesn't stop me from doing anything. And it's like I'm able to actually take that energy and that intensity and transmute that and transform that into action, into sitting down, into writing, into feeling those emotions and letting that translate onto the paper. The saying goes, if there's no feeling in the writer, there's no feeling in the reader.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So you don't want to turn that tap off. You want to run it and let it flow through you. So you're a conduit, you're a vehicle, because we're all equal emotionally. I've been in men's circles, and when it's not the man that's the most intelligent that gets everyone, like you could hear a pin drop. It's the one that is the most vulnerable in sharing what they've actually been through.
Yeah,
because we're all equal emotionally. We all go through ups and downs in the roller coaster of this wonderful experience that we call life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it too. The transmuting or the transforming, the laws of thermodynamics. The first law is that energy isn't created or destroyed. It's only transformed. And when you look at the experiences where you're feeling the insecurity or the negativity, that's just abundance in raw form. It would be like somebody looking at a mountain and saying, there's gold there, I'm going to dig it, and then transform that gold into cell phones or whatever else I can create with it, or money or anything else. But in its rawest form, gold has no value until we transform it or turn it into something that has value. And our insecurities don't become valuable until we do transform them into something of value. Like, I'm going to take those insecurities in writing and transform them into a power of writing, right? Insecurity seems like raw material, right?
It all has richness in it. It has richness in it. And that's why it's a journey of riches. You know, there's a richness in going in the sadness that you feel. There's a richness in the grief that you feel. There's a richness in the uncertainty or the self-doubt that you feel. And can you transmute or transform that, you know, into a different, into a more positive, impactful, and inspiring medium that people can relate to and connect with and have their own transformation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think of the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, I believe. We talk about being able to switch from like small things, because some of the things that we're talking about, I mean, you've had years and years and years and years and years of trial and error and practice and doing this, but it's usually starts out small. You could be feeling sad. You could look in the mirror and smile, and that fast, it's interesting what it can do to just put on a smile and to start laughing, or to go ground, get your head back, do something different to change that energy. And it could be small, so small. Go serve, go give somebody a hug. I love hugs. Hugs make a huge difference. Little things you can start doing that, then as you start to build the confidence and the knowing that, hey, I know what to do. You can go back into your tool belt and start shifting quicker and quicker and quicker. The difference between Nick Smith, Steve Hardison, a John Spender, or Ryan Morris is that we've learned how to shift quicker. We've added to our tool belt over time. It didn't start out that, you know, like being able to magically conquer, you know, these big writing projects and things like that. It took some time to start figuring this stuff out and to learn it. And as we did it over and over and over, it's just like in baseball. You start with a T-ball, coach pitch, and then the ball comes at you faster and faster and faster. You start getting bat speed as you practice and you learn, right? Same type of concept there. So John, dude, I love that you're talking about this stuff, because if you listen and really hear between the lines of what John is talking about, this is fundamental. This is exactly how you spiral up.
I just heard Olaf on Frozen. I'm Olaf, and I love warm hugs.
I do.
Warm hugs are awesome.
Yeah,
and it's Samantha,
so cool. You know, you can change the theology with a smile, and it's so cool.
So the journey of riches, the concept of that is beautiful, because truthfully, we're all surrounded by abundance. We're all surrounded by the same abundance. We all get to draw from the resources that are around us, whatever those look like. And we are all equipped inherently with value and worthiness. It's already there. It's not something you gain or garner over time. It's something that is innate. But what gets in the way, you talked about earlier about putting the clay on, and then you end up spending your time just peeling the clay back off. So you put it on and peel it back off, and you say, that becomes a condition of your success. It becomes, I will become a best-selling author when I can peel this clay off. And so instead of becoming the best-selling author, we moved to the condition of peeling the clay off, which was totally unnecessary in the first place, because we didn't even have to put the clay on.
Yeah. That's the thing. We don't have to put the clay on. But I feel that that's the process of living. I don't necessarily think that anyone goes through life without putting the clay on them first. And I don't know if we're our evolution where we actually do come a point where, you know, children are born and, you know, they have parents who just love them, and, you know, they don't necessarily have the clay on. I'm not sure. I just haven't met anyone that hasn't put the clay on yet.
We've done 280 interviews, and we've had people who had that childhood that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And they still put the clay on.
Yeah.
Yep. I haven't seen it either.
I think it's just part of the human experience. And I feel that that is, whatever you believe. So I feel that that is the gift of being human, that we get to experience it all, that we get to experience a broad spectrum of emotions and ups and downs, high and lows. And, it's back to, they say in the Tao that, good things hide in bad things and bad things hide in good things. And I feel that that's pertinent in a lot of things that we go through in life. So.
I see value in the idea of the clay, putting clay on, taking clay off. Where I think maybe we get stuck is in our judgments of that. It's where we shame ourselves for putting the clay on and taking the clay off. And maybe you're right there. Maybe it is something that as humans, we innately just do that because it's part of the human experience, is to put conditions on our life and then take those conditions away. And I do see a lot of people get into justification and judgment over the clay, and then they still never create. It's like they never really get to the point of putting their unique fingerprint into the world, because their entire focus has been on the clay or their judgments of themselves for being in the clay. We'll play with that analogy here.
I think that's solid. Yeah, I think that's gold right there. And, what is it? This is the big question is, what is it that inspires some people to move forward and other people to actually, to be stuck with the clay?
Yeah. Yeah. To stay in that rumination.
Yeah. That cycle of just off judgment, shame, guilt, all the rest of it. And it's interesting.
This is where, for us, the 12 journeys that we teach go into that cycle of healing that process, because it's so easy to get stuck into the automations of rumination and judgment and shame and blame and guilt and insecurity, and stay stuck there and not really create anything new in the world. You just get stuck in your story. And so what we like to do is see people move into their story, but also follow it through. If you're having a fear, to really play that fear out, to not just have the fear and justify having the fear, but to play it out and put yourself in the experience of, well, what happens next, right? So let's say that this thing that you fear so badly happens. Well, what happens next? Okay. And then what happens after that? It's like you finally write the story, and then you find out in the end, holy crap, I could navigate anything in my life. In relationships, it's interesting what comes up in relationship. And then when you have these fears around relationship, but you really play it out, you find out, oh, John lives in the end, or whatever. There's that book that, John dies in the end or something, or the movie. Well, in this, it's like you survive 100% of everything that you go through. You'll find that out if you'll follow it through. So when you look at somebody going on the journey of riches, what philosophies or wisdom would you share with them? The person on the other side of the screen here, what would you share with that person that says, here's what you should maybe look at as you take on the journey of riches, so that you can really put your impact into the world?
I think get very clear on, what sets you alight, what really is, what would you say your soul's calling is? Start, from your passions, and move in direction of a sense of purpose. What do you really value? Where do you spend your time? What do you talk about? Where do you spend your money, your income? Where does it really, really what do you spend your time doing?
What could you do?
What do you love doing?
Yeah.
What do you love doing? How can you be of service and help other people with that? You can get paid literally for anything. Remember that there was this guy from San Francisco, and he was a marketing genius, and he came up with these pet rocks. It was like in the 90s. He made like millions from that idea. And it was just this, and he had names for them, and he had care instructions. care instructions? It's a rock. But these rocks, and it came
You
with,
need
you know,
to be loved and nourished and hugged,
yeah, loved
John.
and nourished, and it had a name, Ernie, Bert, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And had these rocks, and it's like you can create anything from anything. It's like, what really is, you know, what are your gifts? You know, what sets you on fire, and start from that place, and how can you be of service with those gifts and talents? You know, and a lot of the cases, and you'd find, both of you would find this in your coaching vocation, is that, you know, we so often we undervalue our skill set because it's automatic, you know what I mean? And so it just becomes natural and habitual, and it's like, you know, you're really good at, you know, X, Y, Z, and the person's like, oh, everyone can do that. No, they can't. Not at that level, and not at that ease. You're almost on automatic pilot, being able to do this thing, whereas other people, you know, it's like a point of fear for them, you know, whatever it may be, skill set. So I find that if you can find your passion and purpose, and just a way of being of service, and that doesn't happen at the click of the fingers. You know, it's starting somewhere. You know, I went from landscaping to coaching to now book publishing to now filmmaker. So, you know, constantly evolving and growing. And so, you know, the dynamic of how you're being of service and living a life of passion and purpose, it changes, right? And so being flexible and malleable in that way, I feel is, you know, really good for our mental health, and also being of service and still feeling, you know, of value. That's been my experience in it.
Well, it's doing the thing that brings joy. Truthfully, is it, like, you find the joy, and it's easy to do. You would do that without anybody ever telling you to do it. You would never feel guilty for doing it. You just enjoy it. The only time we feel guilty is when we judge ourselves against what we think we should be doing according to what we think others think we should be doing. And then we feel guilty, like, I should be doing this instead of the thing I really enjoy. You know, like Ryan produces music. I write songs, but I don't sing. Like, this dude will get on and sing, and I'm like, that's not my
thing. He's good. Yeah, he does the whole sort of TikTok sing off.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's like my joy, my thing I would do without any hesitation is just create articles, poems, songs, but I wouldn't sing those. I would just create them, put them out in the world in my way. But that's the thing I can do effortlessly, right? And that really is where we hesitate, because the thing we could do effortlessly a lot of times doesn't really pay out in the beginning. We think we should be doing the things that pay out because that's what society measures as valuable. And so we quit doing it, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic of instant gratification in a lot of cases. You know, there's obviously other elements involved. I think that's one of the reasons, you know, is that instant payoff. And I think once it's almost like the bug, they call it, you know, the travel bug, or, you know, once you find that, you know, painters have got to paint, you know, yogis have got to do yoga, you know, meditators have got to meditate. You know, once you find that thing, it's a non-negotiable for you. Or if you're not doing it, you're just not as happy. You're just not as satisfied. It's like, it's hard to explain.
Well, and it's easy to do the thing that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And the moment you turn it into no longer a joy, but a requirement, because you have to meet social standards of, now I got to make income from this thing. Now it's not successful if it's not measuring up to these standards. Then it no longer becomes fun and you don't enjoy it anymore. But it's from the joy that these things really have movement. You know, I look at my girlfriend models, and that's her most natural thing. Like, she gets into that and she's in a different world, and it just expresses, right? I see Ryan get into singing, and when he's in that world, it just expresses. It's just so natural and easy, right? When I get into writing or poetry, it just flows. And that's where the moment we shift it from a flow to a have to, it loses its joy, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I've got to find I oscillate between the two quite often. You know, even though I enjoy writing, I enjoy speaking, I enjoy publishing books. It's just sometimes some days where I really don't, and it's like I don't feel like doing any of it. I'm definitely not in flow. What I find is if I just show up anyway and do it, the inspiration finds me. If I waited to feel inspired to write books and create and, to collate different stories and put them all together, I would probably never get started, really.
Yeah, that's a great
point. A lot of the cases, it's like I start, I begin, and then the inspiration finds me. My fingers are on the keyboard and I type and I'm like, you know what, I don't really feel like today, but I'm going to give myself 20 minutes of writing. And before I know it, 2 hours is gone. You know what I mean? It's like the inspiration has found me.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. I feel like that's blending the two worlds pretty well. And in my book, The Art of Accomplishment, I talk about discipline over desire. And sometimes there are days where discipline leads and other times where desire leads. Right. So that's really cool. As we come toward the end of this, and we're not quite done yet, but just thinking about this, actually, I'm going to go through a process here and have you fill in some gaps if that works. If we look at, we come into this world thinking we are something, we're programmed to think we are something, and then we start to wake up to that, and we shift and we start becoming our version of ourselves, our best version of ourselves, and we navigate the emotions and start to accept our lives, and we start to see the abundance in the world through gratitude and positivity, and we empower ourselves with tools to help us anchor in when life gets hard so we don't slide back into old patterns or, destroy our lives. And then we step into the unknown and do things we've never done before. And everything's a possibility in that uncertainty. Yeah. And you start to see the abundance that surrounds you that you can draw from to create anything you can imagine, including our insecurities as abundance, which to me is such a phenomenal idea. And then we have a vision of what we'd like to create into the world, and we have no idea how we're going to do it. And we surrender to the pathway that needs to happen for that vision to become a reality. And we draw from the abundance that surrounds us, and we draw from the uncertainty, the possibilities, and we surrender the pathway, and we nurture ourselves and our creations. And ultimately, we leave our impact in the world. And that entire cycle is what we call our 12 journeys. But as you go through that, what do you think is missing in that, John? Like where are we wrong in that process? I'm not asking where we're right.
No, I really don't know. I'd have to look at the data. Where's the spreadsheet?
Yeah, right.
I've got no idea.
Yeah, beautiful. It really seems to be like we'll
take that as validation that we're on the right track.
We're on the right track. Yeah.
Well, in science, the scientific view is not to prove your theories right; it's to prove them wrong. And in trying to prove them wrong, you find out that you're right. And the 12 journeys as a framework is really designed around, where are we wrong in how we perceive this? And one of the areas that I see where we think we're wrong is that we have to fix ourselves, or we have to become something to become valuable in our world. And what we're waking up to more and more is that no, your worth, your value is a non-negotiable. It's not in the hands of any other person or an ideal or some construct that you think you need to become. It's there.
You gain. It is inherent.
Yeah. So any unbecoming also is quite unnecessary if you're doing it for unbecoming so you could be worthy.
Yeah.
No, you're already worthy. There's no unbecoming so you can become worthy. It's just if it's getting in the way of expressing your innate gift, then maybe we'll look at it from that.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah. For me, I feel that, I think I used to think that, where is this fear coming from? And, why do I have to feel fear to actually move through and to become the person I want to become? And that held me back for a while. And so did, feeling anxious, social anxiety and anxiety going towards what I wanted. And so to make peace with that and to have a morning routine where, just really gets me in my being. And, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. A lot of the things that we're creating and doing, it's been done before on some level, right? And so there is, you do research on what other people have moved through, and Joseph Campbell says that the cave that you fear to enter has the grandest treasure for you. Something along those lines, and it's so true. Often the case, fear is, especially if you have a clear vision and a goal, what you want to achieve. Fear is actually one of the stepping stones to move in that direction. You know what I mean? And so I feel it's a necessary part of the growth and what we were talking about earlier. And I feel that is misconception to a lot of people. That a lot of times if you're feeling fear and anxiousness or nervousness, you're actually moving in the right direction. Especially if you've got good support, you've got some tools that you can fall back on. You've got an awesome, solid morning routine that reminds you of your brilliance and your worthiness. And I find you need to have triggers throughout your day that remind you of how great you are, that remind you of big self, that remind you can be a giant, that's your natural potential. We're human beings. We're capable of so much, and to be reminded throughout the day, whether that be, a coaching program, reading books, having a morning routine, listening to podcasts. It's like we need that constant reminder, I find.
Yeah, the quote you just shared, standing on the shoulders of giants, Sir Isaac Newton, in the 1600s, think about that, said, as if I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. And each of us has experienced that. Today, I get to stand on your shoulder. Ryan has been there. I've stood on his shoulder. He stood on my shoulder. Goes in both directions. Steve Hardison, who's on here, I've stood on his shoulder, and many others. My girlfriend, I stand on her shoulder. She shows me my potential. It's that we're never fully alone. And the idea of rescue, this is something that in the book I wrote in there in the song, when you find a way to break through, turn around and rescue me. When we think small about ourselves, we think in terms of rescue, right? And so, but when we're on our pathways and we're growing, it's not rescue that we get support and service from other people that allows us to grow into our fullest potential, but it's not their requirement to come pull us out of our lives. It's just simply they're there as someone we can stand on their shoulder, someone we can have support from or serve, get served. And so what are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts around that idea?
Well, 100% that it oscillates, right? And I mean, and to be open to that, and sometimes we're in the sphere of challenge and we need support, and other times we're in the sphere of support and helping someone that's challenged, and it oscillates between the two. And I feel that's the beauty of being human and having friendships and relationships. And I just saw it came up on the screen. Steve Hardison was saying that if you want to deal with your triggers, get married. And he's been with his wife Amy for 41 years or 45 years or whatever it is. And so it doesn't matter what level that you're playing at, we're always growing and evolving, and we need both support and challenge. Dr. Demartini talks about that a lot, and in the documentary Adversity, he shares a lot about that. That we need both support and challenge, and it's so true. They're both necessary to our evolution and growth.
Yeah, John, what do you feel needs to be shared today that hasn't been covered? Maybe there's a question you wish, would somebody just ask me this at least once so I can answer that? What comes up?
Yeah, you get to interview yourself real quick.
Okay, yeah. Well, my definition of abundance, because I feel that this it's such a pertinent topic and so much like lack in the world. And I think there's so many great teachers that teach about abundance and plenty, and in the world of plenty, and there is just so much available. And one of the books that I loved reading was I can't remember the name, but the author was Stuart Wilde, English author, and he was saying that, you know, abundance is everywhere. Just walk into a supermarket and just see the stack of shelves and how, you know, the trucks that delivered them and the human resources that were involved, from packing the goods to delivering the goods, you know, and to the farmers growing the goods. And so abundance is multi-layered. And you are abundant if you have what you need right now to, you know, achieve your vision and goals. You know, if you're working towards that, and if you have enough to do that, then you're in a place of abundance. And I feel like, especially in the Western world, and now coming up through it, even in Asia, it's just that there's just so much abundance around.
I love this, and I want to share some perspectives on it, because this is a topic I love too. Abundance. I'm going to share a quote, and this is one of my favorite quotes on abundance, and it's by Thomas Monson. He says that God left the world unfinished for man to work his skill upon. He left the electricity in the cloud, the oil in the earth. He left the rivers unbridged and the forests unfelled and the cities unbuilt. God gives to man the challenge of raw materials, not the ease of finished things. And abundance to me is that everything we need, the materials, resources, opportunities, people to create anything we can imagine, are already here. And it's up to us to transform them from that raw form into the form we have in mind. And it's not about worthiness or attaining. It's never about acquiring. It's about transforming, and we're swimming in it. It's like asking a fish to describe water. It just is.
Yeah. And then what about the food that grows in the trees? And I mean, everything is provided for, right? As you were saying, like the raw materials.
Yeah.
You know, there is like certain parts of Brazil or northern New South Wales and Australia, where my grandparents were from. I spent time on my grandparents' farm. You could just go and like pick from a mango tree, you know, mango season, you know what I mean? This is just a street tree. And so there really is abundance everywhere, and especially in Southeast Asia. You know, I'm currently in Thailand. There's banana plants everywhere with bananas and papayas, and so, you know, that's from a food perspective. But I feel if you can see abundance in everything, then you're free flowing. You let it move through you, giving and receiving. You know, then you're just going to naturally tap into and be able to, you know, take those raw materials, transmute it, and transform it into a service. I feel there's so much said in that quote. It's brilliant.
I love that. The Andrew Huberman talks about gratitude. I think it was Eckhart Tolle that said that gratitude is the foundation of all abundance. And when you start to express gratitude, and this is the shift that I got from Andrew Huberman on it, is that gratitude isn't about the expression of gratitude. It's about the receiving of that expression of gratitude. That when we witness the receiving of gratitude, it triggers the dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin in our bodies, which when we feel those things, we start to see these raw materials around us and recognize the abundance that surrounds us. And so it's not about giving gratitude. It's about how it's received. And so when people give us expressions of acknowledgement and then we reject that, we've just declined them or denied them from receiving gratitude. And so it's so important to receive, right?
Yeah, that's gold. I love that. That's gold. That's so true. Giving and receiving is so important, to be open to seeing take a compliment rather than just, I used to do this quite a lot, and I still do it a little bit, is, you know, if someone gifts me something, I feel like I have to give them something back straight away rather than just like, oh, no, I actually accept this gift. Thanks, man. Or whoever gave it to me, rather than like, well, you know, let's do, you know, I'll give you this, or, you know.
It's almost a deflecting, right?
Back straight away. You know, you gave me something, I've got to give you something. And I'm sure there's something deeper in that. Maybe it's the ingraining of, you know, fair exchange. You know, you got to give something to receive something. Sometimes you can just receive something.
I think so too. That's where we have to practice, because I feel like that's a deflecting of that energy. Yeah. It's not receiving, it's deflecting. And so when you truly receive,
an element of that for sure.
Absolutely. I see it as when you get good at receiving, then you also get good at gratitude and giving. And you recognize that when you give things to other people, when they receive it, I mean, that's where the joy is witnessing the receiving or in the receiving of gifts.
So true. So true. And one of the things that I do when I'm feeling like sad, if it's the emotion of sadness is too heavy for me to deal with, then I'll just go into gratitude, all the different things. And it starts off really difficult and then it just gets easier and easier and easier before I know I've got a state change.
And next thing you know, you're Olaf and you love warm hugs. It snowballs. Ryan, do you have some thoughts here? Some final thoughts?
Oh man. All I know is that I know that the universe is supporting, that it's out there, that it's in us, it's through us. We are the universe. My experience of John Spender has been nothing short of miraculous. He is a journey of riches. He is abundance. He is a giver. He is somebody that expresses gratitude. That works through frustrating people and writers that like myself, and challenges, and transmutes them into writers and into a higher version of themselves. He challenged me. He came into my life in a spot where, like, who am I to be able to feel like to receive something like this? Found me through Instagram. And I thought of all the people that we associate, that we deal with, why me? And it took me a minute to respond and to get with John, and it was a process in that, and John was so gracious and supporting and loving in that whole thing. But it came at the right time for me. And I just want to let you know, John, too, I've been transformed. I've been transmuted, because you showed me an amazing example of that and how to do it. And you do that for so many people. Now there's a bunch of people that are in our community, in the Ultimate Coach community, that have been blessed, and that have been able to be served and loved by you, and share their messages and what's inside of them. And I don't think that's because of me. I think that's because of who you were being in the world, and then it allowed me to be who I am in the world, and continue that process. And they'll be able to do that for other people as well. So thank you so much, man, for just being that. My life is infinitely better because you're in it, and I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you too, brother. Appreciate you too, and all the amazing things that you spread the word. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I really appreciate it. I was chatting with Kerry the other day, and she was so grateful that you finally brought her your book, or our book, and your chapter, and she's loving it, and she just thinks the world of you. And
well, there's like Alex Smith and then Lindsay Smith. Hey, there are lots of Smiths.
Lindsay Smith, Alex Dumas, Rebecca Shannon.
Yeah.
So,
that's
true.
cool.
I love Rebecca Shannon more than fishing. She'll know that. She'll know that reference.
John, any final words?
Peace, love, and gratitude. I love bear hugs.
I love it. For you that are watching, we are so grateful for you, because this show wouldn't be what it is without you. We appreciate your contributions, and comments, engagements, sharing. For those that would like to support us financially in getting this word out as well, reach out to us. We can let you know what that looks like and how you can do that, because it just helps us serve more people when you do that. And we're grateful for that. The book, The Tortoise's Hair, is coming out. My commitment was to have it done by the end of July, which is on track and will happen. And so it'll be available to purchase here at the end of the month. And so I'm just finalizing the proof on that. And, if you are really curious about how to really shift your life, and want to do more around authoring, or want to explore that with John, please check him out at ajourneyofriches.com. John's a phenomenal human, as you've seen here, and his commitment is to really put out incredible serving works in the books that you do. That's where they've become international bestsellers. Is you don't put out crap and hope people will buy it. You really take your time. Yeah.
Raw and real stories, and
Yeah.
it's just we can learn so much from each other.
Yeah.
As you were mentioning before, sometimes we need to support, sometimes we need to give the support. And the books is really people's journeys of what they've been through, and like strength of the human experience is phenomenal. And I read a little bit about your story, Nick, in the Ultimate Coach, and where you found yourself, and and you came across Steve, and and he supported you through that challenge, and now you reach back and help other people, and Ryan, what Ryan's been through, and the whole sort of being adopted, and that sort of uniqueness, and it being a really difficult thing, and that's what gives, I feel, the heart, the sense of service, and I want to give back, and I want to be committed, and I want to show up for you. It comes from those moments of being through those, being that person that needed that support, and seeing how and knowing how much we struggled, and being in a position to reach back and help someone else. Now, I know, I mean, that's why I do what I do, and I feel that that's the same with you guys as well.
It is. It is. And we will continue to step every day. So for those that are watching, we love you. We're grateful for you. Keep showing up. We're here. Remember to go make it a giant day, as always, and we will see you in the next episode.
Love you too.